Welcome to another episode of the Mind, Body and Pipeline podcast. This week, I'm joined by Sam Royle, who's the founder of SoSquared, an influencer marketing agency with its own proprietary tech based in Manchester. Sam and I came across each other on LinkedIn a number of months ago when I saw him get invited to do a half marathon on the Friday night and then go and run it on the Saturday. I quite like that story. What you see on the surface with Sam isn't what you get. He has had a very considered approach to his athletic journey over the past 4 or 5 years. In COVID, he was about 6 or 7 stone heavier than he is now. He joined a CrossFit gym. He's got fabulous relationships from the gym. He's part of a run club. He's done 75 hard. He's really committed to keeping himself accountable from a mind and body perspective. And he fundamentally believes that his drive within his personal performance leads to business performance. He describes health, fitness, and wellness as discipline and consistency. And I think we'd really all enjoy and take some learnings from what Sam and I spoke about.
Sam, thank you again for joining.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm excited. So you and I have known each other, well, a short period of time, to be honest, a few weeks. And when we first met, we went off on a few tangents about health, lifestyle, sport, wellness. So I'm aware, obviously, about your journey at a surface level. So excited to dip into that. And the business that you've got, I'm aware of what it does. We've talked about its ideal customer profile and all those types of things. But for our listeners and people watching this who might not be as familiar with your work, can you give a little bit of an intro about what you do?
Yeah, so as a business, SoSquared, we founded it nearly 3 years ago now, and we are an influencer platform. We enable, at the moment, enterprise customers to deliver on influencer marketing campaigns, UGC campaigns, social commerce, predominantly with TikTok Shop, and then also social search with TikTok again. Full suite of campaign management tools, everything from campaign creation, creator identification, CRM, communication, payment system, and then the big piece is the reporting and analytics. So really kind of removing the human bias and the fluff from influencer creator marketing and really looking at how do you dive into the data to make actionable insights going forward to make sure that marketing dollars are being spent in the most efficient way.
Nice, like it. The journey that I saw you on from a health and fitness perspective started when I saw you post about getting a PB in a half marathon. When I spoke to you, you were invited to do that like the night before. We'll probably get to that. Talk us through that health journey a little bit. Go back as far as you want, and then sort of the correlation that you've seen between taking your health, your fitness, your wellness seriously, and ultimately the business performance, not only in this business, but the wider sort of interest that you've got as well.
Yeah, so I reckon health and fitness started for me at sort of quite a young age, like 12 years old, like high school level. Played a lot of rugby growing up, so I went to quite a big rugby school. When we got to the point of being around 15, 16 years old, we got to a position where effectively we were dialed in with some of the best schools all across the country, playing in some of the best leagues, etc. And what that meant from a training perspective was we were training before school, we were training at lunch breaks, we were training after school. It got to a point where I was training, there was some form of training every night after school. We were training twice a week before school. I was playing on Saturdays and on Sundays. So it was almost like a semi-professional level. And I did that from the age of sort of, from about 14, 15 years old until about 18 years old. And so across, say, 4 seasons. And that kind of really dialed in a lot of discipline, I'd say. That definitely dials in a lot of discipline. Unfortunately, that all gets thrown out the window when you go to university. So you go, end up going to university, and with rugby being such a big team sport, you effectively end up in a situation where you played with the same group of lads for probably like the best part of 10 years. No real transfer windows at secondary school sports. So played with the same group of people, team sport, you go into effectively what is a new quote unquote school, with it being university, and went to Leeds. So the Leeds first team was an incredible standard, and I just wasn't in the mind frame to take rugby seriously anymore. Didn't really want to play in any of the lower league, lower sort of division teams. I was like, if I'm not playing first, why would I play anywhere else? So then that kind of just like ended that kind of whole rugby career of mine. But with that was kind of like you didn't have that same level of discipline, that same level of team commitment, those commitments that surrounded that. So yeah, I still trained whilst I was at university, but spent most of university being pissed. Was just like, you were away from home for the first proper time, really, meeting new friends. There's a night on every single night. You're just out and about in the mix of 24/7. And again, the way that rugby installed great habits and discipline, being at university installed really bad habits. Now, I was still in good shape at university. I was still training a lot, but like the inside of what I was doing to my body in terms of like still being out all the time, but still training, that then got to a point where when I left university and went into full-time work, when work becomes priority, when your days are busy, your nights are long, etc., the first thing that came as a sacrifice to that was the training, right? Not the drinking, the going out, etc. The drinking and going out, those bad habits, they remained the same. So again, throughout 22 through to sort of like 26, 27, the thing that got deprioritized then was the whole training element of it. And I guess like that's where I see like a lot of people slip into those habits, is that they pick up good habits from sports, they pick up terrible habits from university. When they go into full-time work, they just basically, the discipline habits from sports or training, they're the ones that go first because they're the most difficult ones. And you first start earning money, you've got extra cash in your pocket, everyone wants to go out at the weekend, you've got more opportunities to do stuff. And yeah, I feel like that really kind of takes its toll on you. And I guess that kind of then took me up to starting SoSquared. And I feel like when we look at like how you relate fitness, health into like work, I definitely notice like a lot of the people that I know who take their health and fitness very seriously are the ones that also run their own businesses. Now this isn't like it's a sort of gut feeling and it's not necessarily like backed up by any data, but when you're working for somebody else, you're effectively guaranteed a paycheck, right? You got your job to do, you do everything right, etc. But you can be hungover on somebody else's time. You can kind of slack on your fitness, etc. When you're running your own business, the sharpness and mental clarity you get from like looking after your health and fitness is so noticeable in the way that you conduct yourself in the business, and then also how that business performs and also the other people within that business. So I think that's kind of like the biggest correlation that you find with like a lot of people who are into biohacking, into health, into fitness, tend to also be business owners as well.
Yeah, well, that's really interesting because one of the reasons that obviously I've set the events part of the business up and we're having these types of podcasts is that I actually see a lot of business owners not prioritizing their health and fitness, but it's super interesting that maybe your circle of influence is with other business owners who are taking their health and fitness seriously. So that's really interesting to find out, because I think maybe particularly from not to be, and it's not going to come across that way, I don't believe, but not to be ageist. There's maybe a generation above us, who are maybe health and fitness isn't their priority, so they're sort of stuck in a bit of a rut.
Yeah, I mean, for example, like business development traditionally used to be done over steak dinners, glasses of wine, and strip clubs, right?
Absolutely.
Doesn't really happen. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen that way anymore. Business development, I go on runs. I've been on runs to do business development with people, training sessions. There's a bit more. The way that business is done is a little bit different now. There's less of like client entertainment, and whereas like, if I look at my dad's generation, like that was how business was done, and it was kind of like, and then it was installed into personal life, business life, so it just kind of all muddled into one. Definitely agree that there is the next wave of entrepreneurs, business owners, or senior business leaders who are of the ages of between, say, 30, 35 to 40. There is a general consensus that isn't an ingrained part of their lifestyle anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's more common. When I gave up drinking 5 years ago in Jan, I was an anomaly. I'm not anymore. There's more and more and more people that have either done it in the last year, couple of years, or are seriously considering doing it. Or naturally, they just sort of say, yeah, I get that because I don't really drink.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't put I'm not drinking, but it's certainly, and these conversations that I've had with people, and quite often why you start a business is because you believe that there are more business owners that want to do what you do, and that's certainly what I did with the events. I was thinking there must be other founders that want to get together with other founders that are into their health and fitness, and generate, I suppose, partnerships with other people with that common value. That's come across a lot in these conversations that we've had because, and to quote one of the guys, Joe, he said there's just that level of trust that I get, and this is him speaking, when I see somebody leave it all on the floor, like in a HIIT class, over and over and over and over again. Not the people that are dipping around looking for the towel or the water every time. There's no problem with that because different people enter the gym with different outcomes. But he feels for himself personally, somebody leaves it all on the floor. From a business perspective, you think, fuck, they're going to do that there as well.
100%. 100%.
You agree, yeah?
Yeah, for sure.
Was there a specific moment, because your journey at uni is very similar to mine? Rugby, stopped playing with my mates, went to like the Newcastle Falcons Academy, realised I was at Northumbria, realised, one, I'm out my depth really, but secondly, these guys take it super seriously. And naturally, I'd started to find beer and pizza and all those types of things, living away from home and the partying and everything. And also, when I first hit London in 2012, if you were not out wining and dining clients in the world of marketing and advertising back in 2012, right the way through to probably 2018, you essentially weren't doing your job properly. So I get a lot of that work, or I suppose a lot of that history and experience that you've got. Was there a defining moment, or was there a bit of a light bulb moment where you thought, I need to get back on to prioritizing health and fitness?
Yes, I think like everybody's was like when COVID happened. So there's
Okay.
actually generally nothing to do. But I went into COVID at like £330, right?
But let's caveat that you are actually 6'6" or something. I bet you're a big guy anyway. But how heavy was that for you? How much heavier?
Well, I'm 245 now. It's £100.
And there's 14 pounds in a stone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my optimal weight is probably about 230. So optimal weight for me is around about 230. So I'm still about a stone overweight now, and that's just because I was kind of near that weight at the start of summer, and then summer came. I've slipped off because of work as well. Like I've gone through a bad training patch over the past 3 or 4 months. We were just talking about, so I got a high rocks in January.
I know, but I don't know you really, really well, but of what I do know of you, that's quite Sam.
Get invited to do a half marathon the day before, go out, smash the PB, run it in like 141. And 141 as somebody that does weigh around like, 240, 245 pounds, give or take, is quite taxing on your knees.
So were you about 6 or 7 stone heavier than you are now at the beginning of COVID? Is that right? Is my maths in there?
Yeah, about 7 stone heavier, yeah.
Wow. So obviously that playing on your mental health with that, large grounding in fitness and drilled in and all that type of thing. Just thought, shit, I need to not only shed some weight, I need to just get back out moving and get active.
Yeah, and it wasn't as if I wasn't moving. Like, so I was at that weight, but I was still training like every day.
You were?
Yeah, I was still training every day at that weight. I was, I was strong, but I was just eating what I wanted. I was kind of drinking what I wanted before COVID. Like I wasn't, there's no cardio element of it. I was like deadlifting like 270 kilos. Like I was strong, but I was strong because I was big. And obviously mass moves mass, right? And then it was like, I was like, COVID came, gyms had shut, everyone started like doing a bit of running. I got a little bit into running and then kind of sacked it off after. I basically did this running, joined a running club where it was a virtual running club where we do 10K every single week. You had to do 10K, it's post your time. There's about 50 people in a group and everyone was posting a time, bit of competition. Did that for maybe about six weeks or so. Sorry, 6 months. No, actually, sorry. Let's go. Yeah, probably more about 3 months, right? Did that for about 3 months. And then just kind of when the bad weather started coming, I was like, I can't be asked doing this. And then the thing for me that really started to drive the big one is when the gyms reopened. And instead of going back to a normal gym, I was like, I'm going to go to a CrossFit gym. And that's when I took up CrossFit. So obviously this was way before like High Rocks was around and stuff like that. Yeah. So I was like, CrossFit, yeah, it looks super challenging. It's very competitive. Like that's what I want to go into. Started doing that. And that just became my absolute mecca. Like CrossFit was just like the You go to the gym, there's no phones, like your phone's like in your bag at the side. There's like, it's an hour of just, there's a skill involved and then there's a workout at the end. And it's just basically, that no matter what, how shit your day's been or anything else in between, you're going to get a solid workout in. All CrossFit gyms have got really good programming in terms of like what they train, etc. I don't have to think about training, I don't have to think about my programming or anything. And yeah, that's that was, I think, was the big catalyst for basically starting to shift some weight and becoming very fit.
Yeah, nice. No, I think it's really important, and we'll get to your opinion, so I don't want to jump ahead too much, but I always say to people, that bit of advice to get started is join a group class. Join a group class with no mirrors. So that could be any sort of HIIT, CrossFit, F45, something I've learned a little bit about in the last few months, High Rocks. Go and join that, have that group mentality where you've got to be there at whatever time, 5-10 minutes before it starts. It's 45 minutes with a cool down and you leave. It's planned out for you. I think that that's a really nice way to step into it, particularly as a business owner or a director in a company when you've got loads to think about. Having somebody just say, be here at this time, do that, is quite nice.
Yeah, 100%. No, for sure.
How do you build fitness into your weekly routine? And has it always been easy to prioritize? I suppose 3 questions that mean the same thing, really. What works for you?
Yeah. So do you know what? Going back to what you said about CrossFit and about classes and stuff like that, I think that was the best way to build stuff into my diary. Now, for me, frustratingly, my CrossFit gym of 2.5 years closed in May. So when that closed, and I think it's a bit of an interesting, if you compare it to like the rugby scenario, right? You played rugby with the same group of people for like 10 years. You trained in the same gym with the same people for 2.5 years. Like there's a lot of relationships in the gym. When that closed, everyone split off into like 3 or 4 different gyms. And it was in the middle of summer. I had multiple holidays booked. Work was getting busy. I spent 3 weeks in the Middle East. Like I basically kind of said to myself, well, there's no point in joining a gym until I come back from summer. So I'll join. This was like May. I'll join the gym mid-September. So I just trained like I know how to train and I was going to the gym. I know what to do, and I know how to do my stuff. But the massive difference you notice of like going into a gym with your own headphones in, trying to find motivation, trying to find the ability to train something, even if it's just go do a bit of chest or a bit of your shoulders or whatever. The quality of the workout was just not there. And partway through September comes around, work is extremely busy. We take on 2 new starters, 3 new starters actually. Q4's kicking in. I'm mayhem. I'm going, I've had 4 work trips in the last 8 weeks, not in the country, trying to be on the road, etc. And I was just like, this is absolutely chaotic. And I've just still not gone back into CrossFit. The thing that's been a massive saving grace for me, so I can confidently say from my perspective, realistically, I have not trained properly since May in terms of weight training, CrossFit, High Rocks, sort of functional fitness, right? The one thing that has been an absolute saving grace for me was joining a run club in January. I joined a run club in January where we run. There's a run every Thursday night and Saturday morning. That for me meant that no matter what, if I was in the country, I'd be there. And it meant that effectively every single week I was getting 20K in terms of running, right? And that has just kept me ticking over in terms of like a baseline fitness. And yeah, while I can look back and say, okay, the last 5 months have been a shit show in terms of my training, in terms of where I want it to be, so my training was progressing so good at the start of the year, completed 75 hard, was starting to really get into it. And then the gym just closed and it just completely threw me off. So I think when it comes to building in discipline and practices into your training routine, I think there's certain key things that make it a lot easier. So for example, joining a run club, where even if it's once a week, where it's just a bit of a non-negotiable Saturday. So like Saturday mornings, I'm at run club at 8:30, and I know that before most people have gotten up in the morning on a Saturday or they've done everything, that I've been out, I've walked the dog, I've gone to run club, had some breakfast, I feel good, starting my day.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say as well in terms of building discipline is if you can afford a coach, get a coach. There's a reason why coaches is such a big profession, because it's that accountability level. If you can get an in-person coach, amazing. If you can't get an online coach, failing that, join a gym that does, whether it's a High Rocks gym, whether it's an F45, whether it's a Barry's, whatever it is, invest in you And one, you'll feel shit for not going to the gym because it's costing you a load of money. Like a CrossFit gym is not cheap. It's like 130 quid a month. And, whereas you can go, the facilities are much nicer at a pure gym that costs you 30 quid. Use a warehouse with a few plates and barbells, but it's that level of like accountability and like scheduling in the training, like the programs are so good. I think when you put yourself into those situations where they become non-negotiables, that's how you kind of really build very good habits within that space.
Yeah, I agree. This is my first week, so this is the first month in 14 months where I don't have a one-to-one coach twice a week.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to test whether or not I've got that discipline, like you say, to go and do it myself now. And if I don't, I'll go back to him. That's no problem. But is this part of my journey now? And that's what he said to me. I completely get it. This is part of your journey. Can you go and do this?
Some of the best athletes, CrossFit guys, functional fitness influencers, whoever you say, who are coaches themselves, right? They have coaches themselves.
They have a coach. I know.
Coaches have coaches.
Same in business, though, isn't it? You get the business coaches. Some of them have coaches as well.
Yeah, of course they do.
It's exactly the same. So I suppose the routine is a little bit off at the moment and has been this year. One of the questions further down that I tend to ask is about when you got back off track, how did you get on track? Maybe we can jump down to that to maybe expand next year. You and I have spoken offline on email and WhatsApp and things about you've got a pretty hectic Q1 coming up. If you call Q1, obviously Jan, Feb, March, for example, you've got the Run Club. You might be out the country for a while. You talked about maybe going to India and things like that. How are you going to maintain? How are you going to stay on track? What is it worrying you? Because you said you're a bit not disappointed. You didn't use that word, but you were like, I know I haven't done enough.
Disappointed is a great word. I would definitely say disappointed is a great way to describe it. I have not done enough. I have gone into tick over mode, right? And whilst tick over mode is okay, at least I'm not going in reverse. I still should have been way further than where I am. So there's a couple of things that I do. I did it last year, and it's what I'll do this year again. So the first thing is, from my perspective, is 75 hard is just a great way to start the year. And people don't know what 75 hard is. Effectively, it's 2 workouts a day. One of those needs to be outside. So you've got to do you do a run every day. So do a run outside every single day. Another workout. Follow a strict diet. Take a progression picture. About 3 liters. Is it 3 liters of water a day? And you spend about 10 pages of reading every single day.
Do you not drink as well?
So you obviously you're not supposed to drink alcohol on the thing because you follow a diet. Personally, when we're talking about, obviously, like I say I don't drink, it doesn't mean I don't not drink. So for example, I was in Marrakesh that weekend and I was drinking tequila, right? But I just don't really choose to drink. I will drink when it's a special occasion, if I am out with the boys on a boys' holiday somewhere, but I won't go out and drink in Manchester, for example, because I've been there, done that a million times, and it just doesn't entertain me anymore. Like, I have too much responsibility in my day-to-day and work life. So for me, it just doesn't form part of my lifestyle. It doesn't mean that I don't drink, so I'll never say I'm teetotal, but it just means it doesn't really form part of like my day-to-day or my week-to-week or even my month-to-month. But starting that year with 75 hard, because effectively what that does is it takes you up near enough up to the end of Q1, and it just sets a baseline for doing everything. During that, I have Manchester High Rocks in Jan, which, as I was saying before, I'd still not started training for that, so I should probably do a couple of sims. I'm kind of banking on the fact that I have an incredible erg record in terms of like ski ergs or rowers that is going to carry me through that. So that should be absolutely fine. Being big 6 does come in handy when you need to.
Those sleds will be all right as well. It's the burpees. It's going
to when you need to. The fact I can rip 1,000-meter row in about 3:11 is kind of whether I'd want to rip a 3:11 in the middle of a high rock. So I'm not sure that's a sensible thing to do. Heart rate will probably collapse. So that's then I have the Rhodes half marathon at the start of April. And then during all of this, I'm going to be going back to CrossFit, and I'm looking to compete in CrossFit throughout the summer. And then the Berlin Marathon in September.
And you've got these physical goals. Do you have business goals similar?
Yeah. So actually, Not sat down and looked at my business goals for the new year. I typically tend to spend Boxing Day doing that. Boxing Day is my day to sort of sit back and reflect on the year so far, what we've achieved as a business, and then going forward into the new year, what do we want to achieve? Where do we want to be? What could we have done better? I think the best question, that it doesn't matter how good your year's been, that question, what could we have done better, is just so critical for like business.
Yeah.
Because it shows critical thinking. It shows that you can also, remove your ego and be sort of like reflective of like how I've done as a business.
Yeah. And your approach to physical goals, let me reword that. Your busy schedule with work, and it's taking you with influencer marketing, is taking you all over the world and has done for this year and could do for next year as well. You've got the 75 hard that will ground you, that you can do anywhere and put that discipline in place. You've got a marathon to do. Have you done a marathon before?
No, only halves.
So you've got that to do. I imagine, knowing you as I know you, that your approach to business goals when you set them out would be slightly different to your approach to physical goals. You're very relaxed about your physical goals. I think you put them in there to make sure you do them, but I don't think, do you see what I'm kind of getting at? I'm not wording it very well. It's almost like, how has your approach to physical goals helped you in a business perspective, or the other way around? But I'm not sure if yours are completely aligned. You have got a very relaxed, you're quite happy to go, fuck it, I'll do a half marathon tomorrow, which is quite unique, but I don't think you would go, fuck it, I've got an investor call tomorrow, I'll prep the night before. Do you see what I mean? I can't see that in you.
Yeah. So from my perspective, there's a few ways to look at this. From a business perspective, there are a lot of other external factors that come into play. So, if you're trying to get a deal over the line, you've got bits of material to prepare, you've got to, understand like the pricing structures, etc., how you're going to deliver it, all these kind of stuff, right? There's a lot of other contributing factors to achieving a certain goal in business. And also in business, there's also typically like a lot of different stages of getting there. Now, look, fundamentally, those principles do apply to fitness as well. But also put your fucking mind to it and do it. Like there is an element of like Goggins-esque where like you can literally like, just get up and do it. And it might not be the quickest time, it might not be the best, but like the mind is the most powerful thing like that there is in the human body. And like realistically, okay, every Tom, Dick, and Harry can't just walk in off the street and go lift a 250 deadlift or hit like a 100 kg, clean and jerk or something like that, whatever it might be. But when it comes to things like running, for example, where that is one foot in front of the other, get on and do it. Like you can just, in my opinion, you can just wake up and do those. It just depends on how much you want to do it.
Yeah, okay, nice. No, we had somebody else on the chat with him, and he was very, very similar. He doesn't do masses of training, but he'll just go and dust off an ultra, and he's very mindset focused. But he's the same in work as well. It's all, if I want to do it, I'll just grind through it mentally.
Yeah. And look, there are a lot of things that you can grind through mentally in a work environment as well, like doing the things that you don't want to do and like just grinding it out. But there are also limitations to actually what you can do if you need like industry expertise to align with stuff. If you're time constrained in terms of like getting other people in the team to prepare materials, etc. There's more external factors within business that can impact whether a goal is achieved as opposed to fitness. Fitness is it's you versus you, really.
Yeah, nice. And what are the motivations that keep you focused, short term and long term, to your health?
Long term, I do fundamentally believe in like biohacking and reverse aging. Whilst I am not practicing it the best that I should be doing, as I was maybe this time last year, I do believe that like longevity of life can be preserved. Like I know some people that have trained really hard their whole lives and looked after themselves. And okay, sometimes it's the hand you dealt. Like sometimes you can't get, if you get hit by a bus, you get hit by a bus, right? But they're like 65 now, super fit, athletic, and they just look great, feel great. The thought of getting to like my 50s and just being in pain and being out of breath and just feeling shit, right? that terrifies me more than anything.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the things that like terrifies me the most, is just not feeling good. And you notice it, like if I had a big night on, I think it was Friday night in Marrakesh, right? I felt like shit on Saturday. That feeling of feeling shit is not great, right? Now, don't get me wrong, doesn't mean I'm not going to go out and go have a drink again and go on a night out. I still will do that. Like, it's not part of my life to go teetotal. I have a relatively decent relationship with alcohol consumption, but it's how quickly I bounce back. Like, the next day on Saturday, I went and did a little HIIT workout in the garden. Felt like shit, but still did it, right? Picked up all the hamstring, but yeah, that's another story. But being able to just like, from a long-term perspective, like I want to be that guy at 50, 60, 70, where everyone's like, yeah, that he's looked after himself. Like you look good, you feel good. You can still go toe to toe with people, like, running races, whether it's swimming, cycling, weightlifting, whatever that might be, you still like there and you feel good in yourself. And I also think that will then relay onto you as a person in business as well. Like you'll just be a sharper person, more focused. You see, like, even like sort of like people in their 40s and 50s now, like big people that I aspire to, look at, for example, like, like someone like, say, like a Jeff Bezos, for example, right? He's taken his fitness seriously. Like he's, look, Mark Zuckerberg has based on a full rebrand. He's now doing MMA and everything else in between. Like the whole thing has become like a little bit of a, it's your personality, right? And having fitness behind that is like it's a big personality trait to be a fitness guy.
I know one of my pals, he works in fintech, and he said to me what he started to see. He goes down to London twice a week. He lives in Edinburgh, and he goes down to London twice a week, particularly with meetings with the big banks, for example, right? And he said now everybody's wearing these. Nobody's got the Breitlings and the Rolexes and things like that on. He said he's like, they've got Apple Watches, they've got Garmin's, they've got Fitbits, they've got obviously what you've got there. That's like, this is me. This is who I am.
It's a symbol. And don't worry, I love my...
Because 5 years ago, when you and I were working down south or whatever, it was about the watches, it was about the shoes, it was about the cars. It's not anymore.
I mean, look, people still want to have nice stuff. They always will do. A lot of people are starting to invest in their health now because fundamentally, you can have a nice car, but if you've got a great rig and you're a fit guy as well, then it makes a nice car even better.
Yeah, it does. I agree. And you never regret spending a pound on yourself when it comes to health and fitness, I think.
Nobody has ever, never mind the monetary aspect, nobody has ever finished a workout and said, I regretted that.
No, I know. And yeah, and that's interesting, because I mentioned to somebody the other day that nobody ever wakes up talking about alcohol, but it's still related. Nobody wakes up and thinks, fuck, I wish I had more to drink last night. Nobody ever says, I wanted more, But yeah, nobody ever regrets a workout. I agree with you. Your nutrition, how's that?
Very interesting. So nutrition-wise has always been something I struggle with. I have the world's worst sweet tooth. I'm so bad with sugar. That's my Achilles heel, is sugar, which is why when 75 hard comes around, I manage to kick it. And once, it's such a weird thing. Once you get when you get 4 weeks into not having sugar, you don't crave it anymore.
I know.
But it's getting to that first 4 weeks. But aside from that, I eat what I want when I want. I eat predominantly an all meat diet. I eat very, very little veg, and if I do, I'll consume it in like greens form in drinks. I regularly will go through like a kilogram of mincemeat as an evening meal. It's my favorite thing in the world. There's honestly no better meal in the world than a high-fat, good quality mincemeat, some grated Parmesan and some chilies and garlic just in a bowl, and just sit and just spoon it in.
I don't disagree.
It's so simple but so good.
Do you if you're going to eat that type of food, then do you get back to, because I know you live in central Manchester, do you get back and batch cook on a Sunday? Do you do like 5 kilos of meat? Do you go? But do you enjoy cooking? Would you bring some into the office the next day for lunch?
So I've intermittently fasted now majority of for the last like 5 years now. So I actually genuinely don't really consume many solid foods until the evening. For me in work, I do it the weekends, but for me in work, it slows me down way too much. Even if it's like low carb and it just obviously when you consume food, obviously your body, the blood to digest it, etc. Obviously, when people get there, it's the after lunch crash sort of thing where everyone feels slow and lethargic. Obviously, it entirely depends on what fuel you put into your body. But for me personally, my body works incredibly well on no food throughout the day. I drink electrolytes. I have 1 coffee, maybe 2 a day max. But yeah, predominantly sodium, potassium electrolytes, and a greens drink. When I'm properly on it, it's normally a greens drink, sodium, potassium, electrolytes, 1 coffee, and typically probably will have like just eggs at lunch.
That's quite a big window outside of the eggs, which is obviously not particularly calorific either. That's you pretty much doing aside from having a few bits of fat and a little bit of protein, and maybe because there's not much in those green drinks, the calorie is hardly any, is there? So you know what I mean? So you're pretty much going all day intermittent fasting, and then you've got a window where you sort of gorge is the wrong word, but you top up the calories that you need. Do you therefore train when you are in a routine? That 75 hard, for example, will you do that after you eat in the evening? Will you do it first thing in the morning?
So last year, because of the way that work diary was falling, I was training at about 6 p.m. at night.
Okay.
So I was training at 6 p.m. at night. And interestingly, a lot of people said to me, like, it'd be really interesting to see how much it changed your lifting, etc., if you hadn't eaten at lunchtime. Actually, there was a bit of a noticeable difference in terms of the strength level, in terms of having some food 6-7 hours beforehand. Now, what I've done what I want to move into, just because of how busy work is at the moment, I want to move into that first thing in the morning training. I honestly, the difference between training first thing in the morning versus training at the end of the day, because a lot of shit can happen in the day, right? Your day gets on top of yourself. Like today, what time is it now? It's 10 to 2, right? I guarantee you that I'll end up basically working until 7 p.m, not getting back until about 7:30, being like, oh, I'm pretty hungry now, and I've got to go out and walk the dog. I'll go walk the dog, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, I'm like, fuck's sake. I'm like, I now don't have time to train. I don't want to train. The motivation's gone and disappeared. So getting that training session in first thing in the morning, I think is just like is a really big kind of hack. And then what I think that probably allows you to do is to kickstart your metabolism in the morning, which probably makes you a little bit hungry at lunchtime. And then it means you're eating your evening meal earlier at like 7 o'clock, because you're not needing to go to the gym in the evening. That food can then digest. You get a better night's sleep. It's just that cadence just works so much better. But it comes into having a lot of discipline in your routine. And one of the things that I'm implementing from next year into my life is I'm not going to have any meetings booked into my diary before 10 in the morning.
Yeah.
So that if I need to go to the gym, I'm not going to be in the office for 8:30 or whatever it is, then it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I'm learning about things like that, window of meetings and all those types of things. I think it's important. Couple more questions. We spoke, or you mentioned before, about doing like, your BD meetings have changed. They're now sometimes in the gym on the runs. That fitness community that you've got, you've seen business. The answer is probably yes, but can you expand on the answer being possibly yes around business opportunities coming from that fitness community, whether it be at CrossFit with the running guys, BD stuff that you've done, investor stuff that you've done?
Yeah, I think like for example, I'm doing high rocks with one of my investors, right?
Nice.
So I'm doing a doubles high rocks with one of my investors. I think like you basically, you're putting yourself into positions to meet like-minded people.
Yeah.
Who, if they are like-minded in your sense in terms of health and fitness, there's probably not always going to be an opportunity. There's probably going to be opportunities outside that. They're probably, if they're focused on that, if somebody has discipline and focus within their health and fitness, they're probably, by a law of averages, relatively focused and disciplined and driven in their work environment as well, which means they'll get shit done. So whether or not they're a business owner or a senior decision maker or whoever it is, there's always a relationship there to be had and somebody to help push stuff forward to you. So I feel like it does really, it's that whole thing of like, quote unquote, make your own luck, right? Whereas you don't make your own luck, you just put yourself into more favorable positions.
Yeah, no, I like that. You can have a bit of time to think about the answers to this if you want. The 3-pronged question: what does health mean to you? What does fitness mean to you? And what does wellness mean to you?
You could probably answer them all with one word: discipline. Like, honestly, all those things tie into discipline. Like health, fitness, wellness, like they are foundation blocks of doing better in your career, doing better in your personal life, in your relationships with your family, with the enjoyment that you have with your friends, etc. Because when you look good, feel good, that is reflected on the outside. And when you've got mental clarity, when you're sharp, when you're able to communicate better, when you feel good, when you look good, etc., like that all transpires into the way that you live your life. And I think like there's nothing but positive externalities that come from that. The thing with fitness, health, and wellness is they all stem from being a very disciplined person. Like they just fundamentally do. And I'd also say, like, in relation to that, like the fact that they do stem from being a disciplined person, I think it shows a great character trait of an individual that they are disciplined. Like when we actually hire people now in the business, we ask them, what are your hobbies outside of work? What do you do? Do you train? Do you take your health seriously, etc.? And as egotistical as that might sound, like we would that's a trait we'd look for in somebody.
Yeah, no, I know. We've had somebody else on who naturally has, by accident, she says, but she just collected this team full of runners.
There you go.
Because people are attracted to her personal brand. She posts very regularly about her running. Final question. You and I spoke about this at the beginning, and I suppose it's interesting to see the network that you've built around you with those founders that take health and fitness very seriously. But for those business owners that don't take it seriously at the moment, or haven't been able to find the time, got other priorities with kids or whatever it is, what is the one piece of advice that you would give them to get them going?
You've got to start somewhere, but you've just got to start.
Okay.
Like you have got to start somewhere, but you just have to start. And you've got, it just goes back to the discipline thing. So you've got like two things, like discipline and consistency, right? Like discipline allows you to start, and that consistency allows you to enable the discipline to go forward and keep doing things. So I guess like you want to, it's like with business, right? There's like with business, you want to pick like goals that are achievable. There's no point in setting goals that are beyond achievable, because you're setting yourself up for failure. And whilst failure is good in business, and failure is also good in health and fitness, right? Failing time and time and time again is crushing. And unless you've got like a really strong mindset, you're just going to end up giving up. So set yourself achievable goals, but just start. I think one of the best apps like in COVID was like Couch to 5K. That did so well. I just got people moving. So I think that, yeah, just start. I think it's something, you have to overcomplicate it. Just start. Just do something.
Nice. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
No problem.